Thank you. Here at the Ethical Society, we organize our programmatic year around a theme, and this year's theme is Exploring the Human Condition. I hope you've enjoyed the diverse platforms these last few months. Be assured that the platform team is hard at work scheduling dynamic speakers with fascinating topics for us in the coming months as well. Now, as you know, today is the formal launch of the annual pledge campaign for the 2024-2025 fiscal year, which starts June 1st. Even though we are all aware that operating an organization like ours requires financial support, it still seems to be a topic that tends to be, well, culturally uncomfortable. I'm not quite sure why, but it is. Perhaps because there's always that onus of, gee, I'm going to ultimately have to make a decision, and so is the society, and there's some difficult choices that sometimes have to be made. Today's presentation addresses this issue from a strategic perspective by focusing on building strong roots upon which to build a foundation that is aligned with the needs, vision, and financial stewardship of a society. Our speaker today is none other than our interim director, Amy Miller. Please give her a warm welcome.
Everyone has their emotional support water bottle. And last time I spoke a couple weeks ago, I apologized for clearing my throat because my child gave me something. She gives me things all the time, germs specifically. So I'm fine. I don't feel sick, and I have a tickle in my throat. The same thing could happen this week. Just sorry about that. Also, Scott and I might almost verbatim say some of the same things. I don't want to call you out, but we both definitely were kind of stretched to the sort of the last minute trying to put our thoughts together. And I heard his thoughts. I'm like, those are my thoughts too. So just shows you that we really mean it. So what does it mean to have strong roots? I loved thinking through the metaphor for the pledge campaign for this theme of strong roots and strong branches, because I have a deep interest in the ways in which the roots of things, people, organizations, culture, support or fail to support positive outcomes. I love the visual of the underneath stuff, allowing the seen stuff to flourish or not. We get out what we put in. And I think Scott made that point well, and I knew he would offer the numbers to back that up because that's what his job is today. But for the record, as we are plainly asking you for money, let me affirm first, though, that you are all very generous. And I'm not just saying that. This isn't a manipulative tactic. I would honestly say that is one of the deepest rooted cultural norms here that I've observed. You gave a lot of money to the Uganda humanist schools this year. Like a lot. And you willingly offered to give more for your dinners at good cheer than they cost. Almost everyone said that they were willing to contribute more, and you did. And just the other day, some of you showed up to listen to me and Michael sing here, and you gave generously to support Stray Rescue. We made $250 to give to them, so we saved a couple of puppies. It's cool. You didn't have to do any of that. And when asked to give, you give. But it's always important to remember that generosity is voluntary, and you do not owe any certain amount. No one is requesting your tax forms or requiring a particular percentage of your income. Everyone who is able to willingly contributing to support the Ethical Society's operating budget is crucial to its well-being. We will be as transparent as possible about what those needs are so that you can each consider your capacity in helping to meet them. The impressive endowment, due to the well-documented generosity of a handful of Ethical Society members over the year, is absolutely your most incredible asset. Many people, your greatest material asset, besides this building, which is also amazing. Many people very generously watered the financial roots, often in the event of their death, to make sure that the Ethical Society would live. We all reap the benefits today, and like Scott said, the interest profits on the investments are the source of a significant portion of our operating budget. But as you likely know about endowments, most of it can't be spent. It is saved and invested as a protection for the future and should only be touched in times of extreme drought, if at all. So most of our operating budget really needs to be sourced from individual pledges. Every year at this time, the board president-elect and the leader get up here and talk about the needs of the organization and remind you all to make your annual pledges and encourage you to increase them. Last year, I gave the pledge platform less than a month after starting this job, and honestly, I had no idea what I was talking about. It turned out I wasn't wrong, so when I reread what I wrote last year, I was pleasantly surprised. But at the time, I was mostly winging it because I had not had time to really understand the root system here. And James was long gone at that point, so I had to solely rely on Nancy and consultations with members and historical archives to help me to understand. Here's a passage from my platform last year that I stand by today. Joining and supporting the Ethical Society is not like paying dues to a country club, where you're not welcome if you don't pay an often exorbitant amount, or where you have to dress a certain way, or look a certain way, or belong to a certain social class. You already belong here by virtue of being a human being worthy of belonging. You don't have to do anything. We welcome and accept you as you are. I want to differentiate so that we're all clear on what we are agreeing to in joining and pledging. I know this is the pledge campaign, but I'm certain there are folks in this room who are not members and have been thinking about what it might mean or not. To join the Ethical Society means you've intentionally decided to be part of the community and take responsibility for its well-being. You've agreed to weather the storms together and be part of solutions to problems that arise. Anyway, last year Amy was pretty inspirational for being so green. She was also very optimistic and naive in some ways, but I hope that inspired some of you to pledge generously, or at least made the membership process seem less mysterious and weird. Part of your pledging last year was a symbolic investment in my leadership, and I appreciate that. It's been a hell of a year, but I think I have a good handle on the job now, and so I hope the next year is relatively smooth. Fun fact, my business that I ran full-time before taking this job is called Roots and Keys Coaching. And of course, you know by now, relationship coaching is my specialty. I named it that because I believe the roots of a person are the foundation of who they are. And their roots include their family of origin, their culture, their hometown, their earliest influences. It's the story that can answer the question, why are you like this? I enjoy getting at the root of problems and then offering folks keys to unlock better outcomes than the ones that they've been finding on their own. So those are the gifts I bring to this job as well. Deep understanding of how and why people are how they are, a brain that sees patterns easily, and lots of ideas. So many ideas. And as many of you have been generous with your willingness to talk through them with me, I've been able to make so many new things happen here. Granted, it's not always easy to figure out what the next actual step is or who will take it, but at least there's an endless supply of ideas and willingness to discuss the possibilities. There's so many really smart, thoughtful people here. Unsurprisingly, I've spent the last year asking the questions to the really smart people of the Ethical Society to reflect on the question, why are you like this? And I've uncovered many deeply rooted cultural norms that, for better or worse, contribute to the branches we currently see. As I'm sure you know by now, my go-to question here is, okay, but why though? If the answer is, this is just how we've always done it, then that is not satisfactory to me, and I will go digging around in the dirt to find the roots. I'm always asking, where did this start? What were the original reasons for doing it this way? Did doing it this way make sense at the time? Does it align with the current needs of the organization? Is it aligned with the stated values of the community? Is there a reason for this? Those of you with whom I spend a lot of time might be tired of hearing me ask this question, but why though? Those of you who are, you can laugh on the inside. I have spent countless hours looking through old files and reading documents and asking questions to try to deeply understand the organizational root system and how they influence the patterns I observe today. There's a steep learning curve to seeing the whole picture here. But once the patterns are identified, they're consistent and predictable. As I've mentioned in previous platforms, but you may not fully appreciate, the Ethical Society has been navigating the same issues and problems since inception. You have also had the same strengths. This is a very predictable community in some ways. Ethical culture and our St. Louis Ethical Society were both born out of lofty intentions to divest from organized religion and create a space for free-thinking individuals to come together. We have definitely done that. The deepest roots of the Ethical Society are its commitment to individual freedom of thought and expression. This makes it an amazingly attractive community for anyone who wants to have their voice heard and to express their individuality, particularly those who have had their voices silenced by cultural or family of origin tribalism and religious extremism of any kind. I always want to celebrate how successfully we have done this. These roots cannot be excavated, nor should they be. That said, the predictable challenge with a group of free-thinking individuals is that by nature, individuals who categorically oppose groupthink of any kind overvalue their own perspective and tend to undervalue collective efforts that require their own interests to take a backseat. I've observed this time and again over the past year. Everyone is very committed to their individual right to believe how they want to believe and to question everything. I don't want to change that. And this is likely why a handful of you balked at the board's introduction of community agreements, or at being asked to commit to reading the governance documents of the organization. Not because you weren't going to abide by them, and not because you will never read the policy manual, but because you reflexively resist anyone telling you to do something, anything. It is frustrating, but predictable. I am in the dirt. I see the roots. I know why you are like this. And this is not news to you. It was one of my earliest realizations about the unique challenges of a leadership role here, and one of the unique challenges I see the American Ethical Union wrestling with to try and build a unified movement. The roots are the same. I try to always say it in a loving way. We've covered countless times in various ways. The commitment to individual rights can often be a direct obstacle to community building. Being a good person who is deeply interested in ethical behavior does not automatically make one a good community member. For example, remember when I asked you to be cooperative meerkat mob and not a herd of unherdable house cats? That was a kind way of saying you can't just do what serves and interests you and assume it will grow the society. And I say this as a cat, I'm a house cat. I get it, I totally get it. But likewise, I've asked the question, can we cultivate compassion? Because the tendency to intellectualize and wrestle with abstract ideas can sometimes interrupt the real-time flow of interpersonal connectedness that allows people to experience a deep sense of belonging. I've offered concrete pathways for both head and heart people to demonstrate intentional displays of concern and care because that is how we build and sustain loving community. I've personally poured love into the soil here by way of special forums and Saturday sessions and book swaps and clothing swaps and introvert social nights and music jams, which by the way is postponed, and email correspondence and hugs and offerings of support, in the hopes that the idea of beloved community might take deeper root through my personal example. I believe in the power of relationships and healthy communication, and I have watched you grow, and I know I've grown, and I believe strongly in the work that we've done this year. I believe in the capacity of the community here, and will continue to gently guide the group towards collective well-being to the best of my ability. The soil here is rich. Roots are interconnected by necessity. Roots never grow straight down into the ground and stay in their own space. Everything impacts and intersects with everything else. There is no such thing as an individual root. There are systems. And as per usual, the struggle to find community within the context of individualism is not unique to the Ethical Society of St. Louis. It is an unfortunate byproduct of American culture that we've been socialized into individualism, and it has injured our most natural instincts for belonging. Specifically, white Americans often suffer from this, so communities that were formed by and for white Americans tend to replicate the same dynamics. We often can't see ourselves reflected in each other because we're socialized to see ourselves as not only individuals, but also the default and the norm. Privilege allows us to see ourselves as the star of our own personal movie, and we want to and expect our movie to be really good and have a happy ending. We tend to focus a lot of effort into making it so. There are certainly exceptions, but many of us don't know our neighbors because we don't have to rely on each other. Many of us don't make eye contact and smile at strangers because we're so deep in our own experience. Americans are often devastatingly lonely as a result of generations of individual striving that was born of the myth of America as a meritocracy. If you just work hard enough, your life will be amazing, even though you will be tired and bored and lonely. The American dream failed us all and has broadly resulted in fractured community connections. I'm sure some of you will bristle at these generalizations, but American liberalism, while more generous to our neighbors than conservatism, still does not tend to elevate the collective needs above the individual. We're always looking for the whiffum. What's in it for me? Why should I do this? And I used to think personally that focusing on self-care was a really good thing, but the very notion of self-care is self-centered and not other-centered. I've individually received enough unearned care from this world. I would love to see all of us intentionally practice more other care. It goes beyond empathy and moves into collective liberatory action. It has long been one of my personal goals because I recognize the ways in which I have been raised to see myself as separate from the collective. Like most people, though, it has actually caused me harm in the form of isolation and disconnection. Because I've been raised in this miasma of perceived separateness, I have to actively remind myself that what happens to you also happens to me. By extension, what happens to a mother on the other side of the world happens to me too, by way of our shared humanity. What happens to a migrant seeking amnesty happens to me. The world's children are my children. We are all in this together. White Americans specifically are not broadly a collectivist demographic. We often do not do community well because we're not accustomed to believing we really, really need it. We are raised to prize self-reliance and bootstrap effort. Even the most progressive of us has received this hyper-individualistic training. We often struggle to think and act collectively. There are exceptions to this based on other, often marginalized, shared identities, but by and large, this is the pattern. But here's the rub. It's all a big lie. We do need each other. We do need community support. We do need to feel loved and cared for. What happens to you happens to me. We can teach each other how to move more collectively and collaboratively and invest in our relationships with each other. We can normalize holding each other and ourselves accountable to living in alignment with our stated organizational and personal goals, or personal values, We can build intergenerational and cross-cultural friendships and learn from each other. We can be vulnerable with each other and trust that we are safe. We can invest in our children's programming so we raise other humans who know the importance of collective effort towards liberation, ethical action, and belonging. This is a primary concern of mine in this role of service to this community. I'm committed to helping us continue to divest from individualism and retrain ourselves to intentionally be part of a root system, to focus on other care as a standard. And by the way, I never want you to hear my observations, even negative ones, as critiquing any of you personally. You are lovely human beings, and I value each and every one of you. You all belong here. I just want to keep striving towards expanding the stretch of our reach to bring more and more people into a community that cares about each other, and I want to help you nourish the roots of this organization in relational, spiritual, material, and practical ways. I'm leaving at the end of this year. And soon enough, there will be another person in this position. And who knows what they will see when they assess your root system? Will their hopes and dreams for you be entirely different? Will they be a head or a heart person? Honestly, if I can dream out loud for you, your root system would be best served by bringing back the 2-leader model or introducing a new co-directorship model. It's true. This is a really big job for one person. Perhaps one representing each branch of head and heart, because I do know that it has been nourishing for many of you to be guided towards a warmer and more collective experience here. Many of our newest members are specifically here searching for that. I'll be curious to see what happens next. It will be up to you. This is a real question for the community to ponder during pledge season. Will you be able to give enough or authorize the use of enough funds to equitably pay 2 leaders? It depends on your collective priorities and what you want your branches to look like next year. We're starting on a draft of the budget right now for the membership to vote on in May at the annual meeting, and the fiscal year begins in June. I am responsible, obviously with a lot of guidance from Nancy, for the initial draft of the budget. I'm letting you know now that my draft will include both merit and cost of living increases on all staff salaries, because our staff is amazing. Thank you. That means you're going to pay for it. And I want to set your next leader up for success. In organizations, strong roots in a positive team culture contribute to a stable foundation. I've spent a lot of energy investing in our team and curating it and encouraging everyone to do their best. Humanizing leadership is always the goal, treating each person on the team as the unique and valuable contributor that they are. And I want to be able to pay our staff well enough that their pay, coupled with flexibility and a positive organizational culture, inspire them to want to stay in their jobs for a long time and perform at a high level. So I think you should have 2 leaders, well-paid staff, amazing speakers and music, diverse programming, a well-functioning, well-stocked building, and beautiful grounds, a healthy relationship with the nursery school, a thriving and well-supported Sunday school program, delicious coffee on Sunday mornings, donuts for visitors, hardship waivers for anyone who needs them, an updated website, beautiful marketing materials, and at least 100 other budget line items. This costs money, y'all. Members who've been here a long time and have financially supported the community for many years may feel like we should lean on our new members more for their initial pledges, which for what it's worth, I fundamentally disagree with. And some of you have told me that this is what you think we should do, and I don't agree. Partly because I'm a social worker, and so socioeconomic justice matters to me. I want everyone to feel welcome here regardless of their ability to pay. But more importantly, brand new members deserve to take their time and assess for themselves to what extent they wish to water the roots here. The goal is to make it such an amazing place that everyone feels responsible for its continued success. Without a deep sense of commitment and belonging, it's a tall order to expect people to give some sizable amount of their expendable income. But if you love it here, you value and respect our efforts, and you want others to have the chance to enjoy it for many years to come, you will give what you can to support its well-being. I'm personally and professionally invested in nourishing the strongest and healthiest roots in order to have stronger and more beautiful branches. This extends to each of you individually, as well as the community as a root system. I believe that we are all responsible for each other at all times. We are not unlike the massive and complicated root systems that live under the ground. We are all interconnected, and we need each other. I won't be here to see how it goes after this year, but I will do my best to set you up for success. As my yoga teacher often says, we have to root to rise. Here's to another year of strong roots and strong branches. Thank you.
Wow, a lot to digest with that. On a personal note, though it took a few years, I no longer feel awkward at all about the necessity for a pledge campaign and being asked to donate. Quite frankly, I've never really felt any pressure to donate from the society itself, only from myself, well, and maybe my wife. I think it's because I don't view the campaign as a blatant plea for money, but just a reminder to revisit what should be important to me and to give due consideration to how I can most effectively balance the pursuit of what's important with the realities of my own financial limitations. So for me, it's merely a time to reflect about how to best balance that equation. Members of the Welcome Team will now take up a collection to support the Society. If you are moved to make a donation today, we appreciate anything that you may be able to offer. Like all nonprofits, we rely on the generosity of our members and friends to ensure our community can keep providing our many free programs. If you don't have any cash with you today, you can donate at ethicalstl.org/donate or use the QR code on the screen. There we go. Even better, you can become a pledging member. If you are interested in joining the Ethical Society, our membership coordinator, Courtney Scott Camarada, will be available afterwards downstairs to answer your questions. She can frequently be found at the Visitors Connect table. Now, we have a few announcements today. The first one is a repeat of what Amy mentioned, that the 2 o'clock music jam that was scheduled for this afternoon has been postponed. The second announcement has to do with the pledge luncheon next week. Please be aware that although the title is Pledge Luncheon, it does not mean that it's solely for just pledging members. It's open to visitors as well. The name Pledge Luncheon really came out of the willingness and the desire of the board and the organization just to show a little appreciation for the people that do pledge. So for visitors, please feel free to interact and join the luncheon. The next announcement has to do with staff appreciation. Today after platform, please take a moment to sign a note of appreciation to our dedicated staff. These staff members who arrange for music for platform, make sure this microphone is working properly, provide an ethical education for our youngsters, make coffee for your enjoyment, order the name tags, take care of the building and the building rentals, put together the weekly email and the monthly connection, and present topics at 9:45 forum as it was today. So, and this is only a snippet of the list, so a lot more they do. You'll find a table downstairs in the library with a variety of cards and postcards. Board member Kit Rogers will collect them after platform today and again next Sunday, and will deliver them to the staff in time for Valentine's Day. The fourth announcement has to do with the nominating committee. The Ethical Society needs your leadership. We have openings for a trustee and for the presidential track. The trustee's position is a 3-year commitment. The president's track is a 3-year commitment. The nominating committee wants to hear from interested members by February the 11th. Visit the QR code for more information or see the flyer on the bulletin board downstairs by the stairwell. We would love to keep you informed about future events at the Ethical Society of St. Louis. If you'd like to receive our weekly newsletter or use the QR code to sign up, it's also accessible from the website. So this is a vibrant place and there's a lot going on. I very much hope you can find a way to get involved and connected to the community in ways that both feel good and are meaningful for you. If you want details on any of the events, you can check out the weekly newsletter, the monthly connection, the Friends of the Ethical Society Facebook group, or email the relevant staff person or member. So, with that said, we're getting ready for our third final musical selection. Is anyone here familiar with the Beatles' 1968 double album, commonly known as the White Album? Yes. Good news. The finals musical selection is a classic written by George Harrison, and interestingly, though not credited, the lead guitar work was by Eric Clapton. Please welcome Acoustic Element back to the stage for their final selection, While My Guitar Gently Weeps.